Okay, so thanks for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to go over, this is essentially when I do a WordPress security audit for a client, this is the exact process I use. I have really spent a lot of time updating the document and making it look more professional. It used to be kind of just like notes all over the place. So I did this and I'm going to go through it for the first time. So I might come across typos, errors, whatever, but feel free. I'm going to put the link to this in the description. Feel free to download it and use it as you'd like. I do, so if you obviously, please subscribe, like, do the notification bell if you like videos on WordPress security, WordPress performance, SEO, a little bit of crypto, all that kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. So let's get into it. I've worked with dozens or maybe hundreds of WordPress sites, and I would say the overwhelming majority of them probably have maybe 30 to 40% of this stuff done. If you do like 80% of this stuff, you're going to be more secure than, I made this number up, but probably 99% of the WordPress websites out there. So, how to hack WordPress sites. Oh, and my company is Norzer, so it's norzer.me. If you need help with any of this stuff, let me know. If there's any videos you want done, put them in the comments. Like I said, if you need any help with WordPress performance, security, SEO, you can just email me here or just go to my website, norzer.me. Still working on updating the web page, so it might look a little weird. So how are most websites compromised? By far and away, it's plugins. Plugins that are outdated or plugins that aren't tested with the current version of WordPress that you have, that kind of stuff. Then brute forcing, core, theme, blah, 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 blah. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So if one of your users has a weak password, and the password is password123, and they get compromised, then you're going to have a problem, especially if they have admin access. So this is a social engineering example I'm going to give you here. So it's easy for me to find out the users unless you have like an application firewall installed, and we're totally getting into a lot of this stuff. To enumerate the users, and let's say I find out one of your users is named Joey. And so the email is joey@domain.com. Let's say I enumerate your website and I find out that there are, you can see here, I run a WPScan, and you can see it shows me what a lot of the plugins are. Ultimate social media icons this website's running, floating social media icon, contextual related posts. So you can see it's pretty easy for people to determine a lot of the plugins that you're using and the version numbers, right? So this is if there's a vulnerability for version 3.1.1, if somebody wants to hack into your site, they might do it because they can see the version number. So basically, you want to hide all this version information if at all possible. So let me go back and see the point I was getting at. Okay, so let's say I got the username, and then by running the scan, I see, and we're going to get into this tool a lot more, that you're using Ultimate Social Media Icons. So what I might do is create a domain called ultimatesocialmediaicons.com or .me or whatever, send you an email from there with a compromised plugin and saying, hey, you're using this plugin, here's an updated version of it, please install it, right? And you might be more prone to do it because how would this person know that's emailing you that you're using that plugin? So you might do it. You may not do it. You may do it. I don't know. That's just an example of how social engineering works. So your weakest link, your website's only as strong as your weakest link. Create a baseline and back it up. Before you do anything, you want to have a baseline. You want to know exactly where things started. Take a screenshot of all your plugins. This is just so you know what plugins are enabled, what plugins are disabled. Now you can always go back and just do a complete restore, but I like to see what plugins are enabled or disabled just because I don't want to do a complete restore just to do like enable or disable one plugin. And it's not just WordPress. If you're managing your WordPress server at the OS level, you want to stay on top of, there's a lot of WordPress ones here lately, actually. These are a lot of vulnerabilities for, the Apache web server, operating system stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So sign up for these mailing lists. Packet Storm Winner is really good too. Now, like I said, if you're not managing at the OS level and you're doing it through a hosting provider, there's nothing you can really do about that. Google your website, see if it shows up on any hacked sites, obviously. So take advantage of Google. And subscribe to the free, this is specific to WordPress security. So this is a must. Subscribe to this free newsletter. It's going to give you all kinds of good and especially critical WordPress security updates. And also a lot of tutorials as well. A lot of good stuff. Have offsite backups for ransomware purposes. So, and I don't think I mentioned, maybe I did mention, this is the actual steps I go through when I'm doing a audit for my clients. So you can feel free to use this. You could do it free, hoping that they'll hire you after seeing you know what you're talking about. You could charge $50, $500, $1,000, whatever. I do these for free. And once the client shows that I know what I'm talking about, then I will upsell the configuring the iTheme Security Pro plugin and doing a lot of the stuff that I'm going to cover here. Okay, you want to have backups off-site for ransomware purposes. And you also want to keep backups at least once a month going back a year or two. So what I keep backups once a day for 7 days, once a week for a month, then once a month for a year. Why this is important? So what a lot of these ransomware people are doing is if they can compromise your site, they'll compromise it and they'll just sit dormant for a few months. And after a few months is up, they'll email you or contact you and say, hey, unless you send me, $1,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, we're gonna, totally destroy your website. Because they realize most people don't have backups that go back further than a couple weeks, right? So that's why it's important to have a backup that goes back a long period of time. So if you don't have, if you are managing your WordPress installation at the OS level, you want to do like a Nessus scan or an OpenVest scan. These are open source vulnerability scanners that basically will check everything, non-WordPress specific. So it'll be the web server, the OS, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one layer you want to do. So WPScan is a really cool tool. I've got a cat meowing. 1 second. Okay, it's a really useful command line tool that can help you determine vulnerabilities on your WordPress install. It can check themes. It can enumerate users. It can enumerate plugins, like I was showing you earlier. So basically, in the free version allows you to do 25 scans per day for free. So if you have 20 plugins, that's 20 scans, right? You can check vulnerabilities. Now the free version is not going to show the vulnerability if it's vulnerable or not. It's just going to show you the version of what it's finding. So let me just do, so that's if it's enumerating. Let me show you enumerate users. Enumerate essentially means trying to determine. Whoops. Let me pause it real quick. Interesting. Okay, so this is called Kali Linux, Kali. It's basically an open source Unix. It's based on Debian, so I guess I would say Linux. Vulnerability testing / security distribution. That's awesome. So I just have it running on a virtual machine. Any serious penetration tester, most are using Kali Linux. So the command actually was this. So WPScan, this is the URL I'm testing, enumerate users, enforce. Sometimes you have to force it. So you can see here, it found Ryan at Norzer.me as the user. So you can see it's not hard to get usernames. Now, if you're running like iTheme Security Pro or something, and I don't work for iThemes, I have nothing to do with them, but I love the tool and we'll get into it a lot. You can see here, the target is responding with the 403, which might be due to a web application firewall. This is why it's important to run a web application firewall, whether it's Securi, WordFence, iTheme Security Pro, et cetera, because they're not even going to be able to enumerate a lot of this stuff. So you can see how important it is. These are the tools that hackers use, and they automate a lot of this stuff as well. Another easy way, let's say I have so Shodan.io. This has been around forever. It's basically like a search engine for finding out what technology is running on all websites across the world. If I have a vulnerability for Apache 2.4.3, I can just search Apache 2.4.3 in Shodan and look at it's going to give me all these sites. In the headers, they're responding with 2.4.3. So if I'm really bored and I have an exploit, I can just go to these one by one and exploit these websites, right? That's why it's important, if at all possible, and this is never 100%, you don't want to give version information. You don't want to give your WordPress version. It's in here somewhere. I'm not going to waste time trying to find it. Now, it's not 100%, but hackers generally go after the low-hanging fruit. You want to obfuscate things as much as possible. If somebody really wants to get into your site and they know what they're doing, they probably are going to be able to get into your site. So that's WPScan. It's a command line tool. It comes built in. I think it's built in with Kali Linux. It's awesome. Now, if you aren't comfortable with the command line, and there's a plugin called WPScan, which is from the same people, it just runs once a day. And I actually have no idea if you have 30 plugins and it's only 25 free lookups per day, what's going to happen. But it's something I would definitely install. So Mozilla Observatory is another cool tool. And these are some things you just need to run regularly, once a month, once a week. Just set a calendar reminder, something like that. So, okay, so this basically, it's a website I put together just to test stuff. You can see it's got all kinds of ridiculous things on it. So it's not really like a functional website. It's just basically where when I do demos like this and test things out. So you can see here, I got an F. This is basically a lot of like protecting against like cross-site scripting attacks. So this, if you don't control your WordPress server at the OS level, then you really can't fix a lot of these. If you do, these are basically like one-line fixes in your web server configuration files. So this is something you'd want to do as well. My websites are hosted by SiteGround, so they won't fix this stuff. But this stuff is, you know, kind of minor, but it's something, there's no reason not to fix it. You can get more information here, or you can click on it and learn about content security policies here. And it gives you the examples of what you might want to do. Now, some of these are complex. I don't fully understand a lot of them because they are very complex. Okay, so these are things at the hosting provider level you can do. And it matters. I would never put a website on GoDaddy, on HostGator. They're just, it's not that they tend to put too many, if you have a shared server, too many websites on shared servers for performance purposes. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. But that's not my concern. My concern is the support is horrible. You'll get somebody that on the front line that basically when you ask a question, all they do, it seems like, is they're looking at a prepared set of questions and answers. So to get somebody that really knows what they're doing, they have to generally, at least this is how it was a few months back and has been for a long time, they have to hand it off to somebody, and then you got to wait days and days. I like SiteGround. I'll just put that there. Some people are complaining about the performance lately. I haven't seen that issue. And the main reason, the price is pretty good, and they have really good support. All the first level people on the help desk, they respond really quickly, and they know what they're talking about. So I'm not going to give you a referral code and anything. If you want to use SiteGround, use it. There's also WP Engine, all these other ones, Kinsta, etc., etc. So use a strong hosting provider and change the password routinely. This is something you'll forget at least I forget if I don't have a calendar reminder once a month to do this, because most hosting providers don't force people to change their passwords. So it's something you want to do, and you can do it generally in cPanel. Are all FTP accounts you have configured in cPanel, or whatever the admin area you have in your hosting provider is called, are all of them valid and created with strong passwords? And are they being used? This needs to go down here. Okay, so this was FTP. Okay, so this is SSH. Are they still valid? A lot of times you'll have to create an SSH or an FTP account for somebody that's, a contractor or something. If they're no longer doing it, go back and delete those accounts. Make sure you have access to the raw logs, just in case. So a lot of these are links that explain how to, do a lot of this stuff and what to be aware of. Basically, why this is important. If you can make sure these logs are turned on, if possible, your hosting provider may not allow it. Why this is important: if your site gets compromised and you don't have a lot of these logs turned on, then there's no way you can't work with the authorities in many cases because you don't have enough information. That's more of a preventative measure. Set up downtime monitoring. I use free services. You can pay for Uptime Robot. You can pay per uptrends. But Uptime Robot has a free service where it's going to probe your website once every 5 minutes. If it's down, you're going to get an alert. Now, why this is important: if somebody has compromised your website and they take it down, you may not know about it for days. How often do we go to our own websites? right? Maybe if you're like a corporation, I'm sure you do. There's somebody there that goes to the websites. But if like you're a plumber or something, how often do you go to your own website? You may never know it. So it's free. Just go configure it. Use two-factor authentication if possible. Most hosting providers these days are starting to offer two-factor authentication, meaning you put your username and password, and then it's going to send you a text message, and you put that code in, or it's going to go to Google, you type in the code in your Google Authenticator app, whatever. So definitely enable that. I think two-factor authentication at the hosting provider in the WordPress level or layer or whatever it's probably the best overall thing you can do for security. This is just really, really critical stuff. Now, as I said, I like iTheme Security Pro. I'm not going to give you a referral code or anything, and I certainly don't work for them. Let me just show you, and I'm going to cover a lot of the features here. But I want to show you. Let me see if the pricing. I'm not going to waste too much time on this. It's not here. It's an all-in-one security plugin for WordPress. Okay, look at this. So for one site, it's $52. They have it down here where you could actually get 2 for the price of 1. Doesn't look like they have it anymore. So per year, $83 per year for 10 sites. Unlimited sites for $130 per year. This is what I do, because if you're a agency or you're doing, freelancing work, WordPress security stuff, and you install a free plugin, number one, I wouldn't take you seriously. And you don't have all the features enabled. And also you don't get that support. The support is really good. So you can see here, this is something I would consider putting in your arsenal. And I've created a video on how to totally install or how to configure iTheme Security Pro, the iTheme Security Pro plugin. I'll try to remember to put a link to it. Let me write it down actually. One second. I'm going to put that in the description. Also, this document here is going to be down in the description below. So, yeah, it's an unlimited site. So I just install this on all my customer sites. Now, I give them the video of how to install it, but more often than not, they're going to come back to me and say, I want you to install it, and that's where you make the money. So I make my money by combining SEO, WordPress performance, and WordPress security. It's like an all-in-one suite, and they all kind of play off each other. Okay, just make sure an iTheme Security Pro has two-factor authentication as a feature, right? So you don't have to. What I like about iTheme Security Pro, or one of the things I like about iTheme Security Pro, up until a few years back, all these features that I'm going to get into, these are all different plugins. So I'd had 15 plugins doing a bunch of security stuff. iTheme Security Pro has a lot of these within its tool itself, and they're always adding stuff, so it's really, really cool. Okay, make sure your website is in Google Search Console. It's basically the dashboard for the Google search engine. You're going to get a security alerts through there. So routinely scan for malware and vulnerabilities. Should be obvious. iTheme Security Pro does the scan automatically. I think it may be even twice a day, but it's at least once a day. What I like to do also, and I mentioned Nessus here as well, once every week, it doesn't hurt to use 2 different tools. And just see what comes back with it. Nothing, right? It's all good. Nothing to worry about. So just set a calendar reminder for that once a week. Make sure you're using SSL everywhere. That should be pretty awesome. Check for mixed content to make sure you don't have any HTTP content anywhere. This might seem like overkill, but this is a one-time thing. You don't have to do this over and over again. More often than not, you're not going to have any HTTP content anymore. But if you do, you want to make sure it's... Sometimes you'll have like images coming as HTTP. What does this say? It's not forcing the use of SSL. Okay, actually it does. I don't know what. Oh, okay, right. This is my Norzer.me website redirects, but actually the Norzer demo site probably doesn't redirect. That's actually a good point. Let me. Yeah, it's going to 404. Okay, actually, it is interesting. Okay, so it's coming back as HTTP, so that's not good. On my official company site, you can see it'll redirect And it's slow because I'm logged in. You know, it's not taking advantage of any of the performance features. Just so you know that I'm not lying to you. Let's go to norzer.me. We do http://. I don't know why. Oh, it's redirecting. That's why it's slow. Right? So you can see it redirected to SSL. TLS, whatever they call it nowadays. Okay, and then who is domain check. So just do a who is and see what's going on. Make sure there's nothing crazy in there. Who is, if you didn't know, you can do it from command line, but now there's all kinds of web front ends you can do. Just do who is domain, see what comes up. Okay, this is advanced options. Things can break while doing these. Depending on how familiar you are with operating system stuff, you may or may not want to do this. So use secure operating file system permissions. WordPress has some pretty good file permissions. Out of the box has pretty good set of permissions for all the directories and stuff. You can lock it down even more by making them a little more stricter. This can be done within iTheme Security Pro, right? Hide directory folders, and this also can be done. You don't want your folders to be displayed in iTheme Security Pro. Disable file editing. So that's basically, if you go here and you go to appearance, and this is actually pointless in my opinion, and I'll show you why. Because if somebody's smart enough to hack into your website, there's multiple ways around this. But this is not going to allow them to do that. Well, not customize, I'm sorry. The theme editor or whatever, let me go back. Theme editor, right? So this is not going to allow any editing of these files from within WordPress. And so they would have to have access to the file system to do it. Now, why this is pointless is, but I put it there anyway. Some people just like to do as many things as possible. If somebody's smart, all they have to do is download the file manager plugin, and they have, this is kind of like similar to like an FTP session, or like an FTP drag and drop thing to access the files on your file system. That's why it's kind of pointless. So I wouldn't worry about it. Whatever. Some people like to. Install WPCLI if possible for emergency situations. So WPCLI is a command line tool. Now, if you don't, probably won't be able to do this unless you manage your own server. It's basically a command line for managing WordPress stuff. Because if you're locked out of WordPress through the website, right? What are you going to do? Now, there's a bunch of ways to do stuff, but this is a really quick way. So you can performs basic database options. You can do a lot of stuff with plugins, themes, etc., right? So this is something I would just have this installed on your server, if at all possible, as a preventative measure. Change your WordPress database prefix. Everybody knows the default database prefix for WordPress. It's just another level of security. Just change it to like Ryan_ or something. You can do that within iTheme Security Pro. This is very important. Restrict access to your dashboard based on the IP address. If you're the only one, if you have multiple people getting to the back end, so this is meaning this area of your WordPress install, and you're always coming from the same IP address, you want to lock it down to say only allow people from this IP address to access the back end. And if, let's say you're coming from 22.22.22.22, sometimes you might be coming from .234, sometimes you might be coming from 12. You can just set it up like that, right? So that means if somebody does have your password and somehow they compromise your two-factor authentication, if they're coming from an IP address that you don't define as permitted to get into this back end, then they're not going to be able to do anything unless they spoof the IP address or something. Okay, disable error reporting and debugging. Why this is important, and this is turned off by default, but let's say like I have this website and there's an error, a misconfiguration. If debugging is enabled, it's going to spit back the error. It could spit back very specific information about the error in the web browser. And that could tell the person trying to compromise your site some information about what you have going on. Plugins, version information, etc., etc. So you want to hide as much of that as possible. So only reason you should ever turn on debugging and error reporting generally is if you're actually troubleshooting a problem. You don't want to leak. You want to leak as little information as possible, right? So let's say somebody, some group, some hackers determine that they can, on any WordPress install, if they type WP admin 123, whatever, that's going to display an error message, right? So let's say they determine that, then that could display, wow, that's interesting. Don't know why I went there. Huh, okay, so that's messed up. But my 404 page must be set to this, which is very interesting. So that could spit back an error. That could give them information on your install in your environment. They don't want to do that. Disable login hints. So, and this is done iTheme Security Pro. So basically what this does, if you try to log into your WordPress install, this might be done by default now. I don't even know. Basically, if you type in a username and a password, WordPress, at least it used to, if the email was wrong, it would say invalid email. If the password was wrong, it would say invalid password. You don't want to give that info. You don't want to let the person trying to compromise your website know if it was the password that was invalid or the email was invalid. It'll just say invalid login. And I actually need to research that to see if that is still a thing. Hide WordPress version number. So we went over that. This isn't 100%, but there's a lot of ways you can do it. And I think this is iTheme Security Pro too. I'm not 100% sure, but you want to hide as much information as possible for reasons we've explained before. Hide signatures as well. So this is more of like PHP version, web server version, etc., etc. And I showed you the Shodan example here. Let me see if I can WordPress 5 point. I think I had this. It may not even. I don't even remember if that's a valid version or not. Yeah, it's probably not even a valid version. I don't even know. But you can see this. People can get all this information. Okay, moving along. Cloudflare. So there is a free tier, Cloudflare tier. It provides a lot of extra security. Look into that. See if you want to do it, then do it. If not, then don't do it. You want to delete the README HTML and all these different files, because this is, you can imagine, somebody goes there, let's say this README changed between versions 5.7 and 5.71. So looking at this, they're going to know what version your WordPress install is. Because, like I said, every version may change the contents of this a little bit. Right? Now this can be done in iTheme Security Pro. All these files. Make sure, I shouldn't say make sure, but another option is to get some of the WordPress files out of your root HTML directories. That's something you can do as well. Here, right here. You can look at how to do that here. Harden PHP. So this is something you can't really do unless, once again, you manage the server. You can harden the PHP a little bit. Not much you can do if all you do is, like on a shared server or something. But you can read information here. And this video could go on for 15 hours if I went and explained all of these things. I can't do that. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to try a trick everybody else does. If you're enjoying the videos so far, type pencil in the comments and see if that actually works. Pencil. Or, what do you think Norzer means, my company name? Norzer. Where do you think that came from? Put that in the comments. I'm actually going to tell you in 5 seconds. So if you don't want to know, put your guess in the comments, then come back in 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. It's actually there's a singer named Trent Reznor who is the lead singer of Nine Inch Nails. It is his last name scrambled up. So now you know. Moving along. What did I do here? Wait, something got weird. Okay, something got weird. I'm going to pause it. It's probably just a bug in Microsoft Word, and I will be right back. Okay, so we're back. We're right at 29 minutes and 23 seconds. So this is WordPress stuff. So it's something you always want to do, and this is once a week do this. Go into, where is the dashboard? Is it set? Maybe it's tools actually. And go to site health. Just see if anything shows up there. You get good heads up about plugins being outdated, etc., etc. Just click here, wait for it to load here, or it is loaded. So you can go to info. I think actually, oh, here we go, right here. Inactive plugins, inactive themes, etc., etc. Right? So just make sure there's nothing that shows up there. Is PHP up to date? So this is something that you would get an info server PHP version. So this is something that you would, if you control the server, this is something you'd want to keep up to date. If it is a shared server through a hosting provider, generally a lot of them allow you to choose the WordPress version. And they normally will update it for you because they don't want an old version of PHP running on their servers, but it's just something to keep an eye on. Never give your main username and password to a contractor. I can't tell you how many times I've worked on somebody's site and I ask for login credentials and they give me their username and password. Always give a separate username and password because you don't want them to lock you out, even though you could, get back in it through, the operating system and doing stuff like that. But also the main reason is if there's problems, if they have their own username and password, you can see who's making changes where. If you have like an auditing tool, like what's it called? WP Log Audit Manager or whatever, or iTheme Security Pro has a basic change detection thing. Change the admin username, right? So if somebody's trying to break into your site, they're just going to try admin, which is the default WordPress user, and check the passwords. So and it doesn't have to be a human doing this. This can be, scripts, bots, whatever. I guess those are kind of the same thing. So just change the admin username to Ryan or Bob or Joe. Now, even though they can be enumerated, it can be enumerated through the WPScan tool, as I showed you here. It's another level of protection. Now, if you have the application firewall on, like I showed you here, then they're not going to be able to do all this stuff. Does every user still need access? Again, calendar reminder once a month. Users. You'd be surprised how many. So what happens is people allow a contractor on their website, and after they're done working on it, they don't go back and delete the user, right? So you want to reduce the number. Even if you trust that person, what if that person's username and password get leaked on the internet, right? So that's something. You just don't want that exposure. So go delete them there if they don't need it. Yeah, say iTheme Security Pro is going to notify you of any users that haven't been active in 30 days. You'll just get an email. So that's really cool. There's so many good features in iTheme Security Pro. Does everybody with admin access actually need it? So this should be pretty obvious. So come here, admin. So this, I only have one user here because it's a demo website. But if you had multiple, do all of them need administrator access? So this is pretty basic stuff, right? Is your email correct? So this might sound annoying because you get all those messages about certain things that you don't want to get, but go here and make sure the email is up to date, because this is where iTheme Security Pro is going to send alerts. And as annoying as those messages are from WordPress, you need to get those. Now, if there's some you don't need at all, like saying all the plugins have been updated, you can just set up like a filter rule in your email and send those to the trash or whatever. But don't overlook this, because you need, if anytime if there's an alert you need to get, this is where it's going to go. So you can't just send this to some dumb email and not get those alerts. Use unique passwords. So what this means is if you use one password on Gmail, don't use that same password on your company website, obviously. Same thing for any website. You should have different passwords on all different websites. Let me just show you what I do. I have, for every password, it goes like this. I'm not going to use the exact characters. I'm just going to show you, like, bang, bang, bang. Let's just say it's John, and I do a bang. And if it's eBay, I do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, if it's Microsoft, it would be John. This way, I don't really have to keep track of them, because I know if it's eBay, it's always going to have this same format, but it's eBay here. I just got to change this one piece here, right? Now, if you do track them, because they do change, in my password file, I just do this. like my text document that shows all my passwords. So even if somebody compromised my document lists all my passwords, they're not going to see this. They're going to see this. I know what this means, but they don't know what this means. All right, so that's just a tip for you. That's how I do it. So delete unused WordPress accounts. Should be pretty obvious. Disable anyone can register in your settings. If you don't, like if you're an e-commerce site, then you need people to register. But if your site doesn't need to have people registering on it, go ahead and disable that feature. For strong passwords. So this is iTheme Security Pro can do this. And then this is another plugin, no weak passwords. If you don't want to do iTheme Security Pro. Basically, this is just not going to allow people to create an account with password 123. It's going to force them to use strong passwords. Two-factor authentication. This is, like I said, probably the best thing you can do for security is two-factor authentication. These are some plugins you can, I haven't actually looked in these in forever, but these are some plugins you can use, and I think they might be pay plugins. However, iTheme Security Pro has this feature built into it. Let me show you this. I go over how to configure all these things, and I'll put this. So if you click on it, you can get more information. You can in the description. Okay, that's just going to remind me. You can imagine if you don't have like something, and Securi might offer all these, and WordFence might offer all these features too. Last I checked, a year or two ago, they didn't have all these features that iTheme Security Pro has, right? That's why I like iTheme Security Pro. We're on page 6 of 18, but all these are just points that are going to go real quick. And I've been meaning to put this document into a spreadsheet, like I have I just finished. Actually, it's not finished yet, but, and if you want this, let me know. My local SEO audit checklist. This is the steps I use for a local SEO audit. I want to do it like this. Is this yes, no, yes, no, yes, no? So if somebody wants to do it, let me know. Send me an email. That'd be awesome. Eventually, I'll have it done like this. But if you want my local SEO audit checklist, actually, I'll put it in the description. And I actually just finished it 2 days ago. I'm really formalizing my processes, so this could change. Just look at version 1.3. By the time you're watching this, I might be in version 2.1. I don't know. Put in the comments if you want a new version, or just send me an email, ryan@norzer.me, and I'll give you the latest version. And I actually have a video on my 6-month plan that I use with my clients right here. It kind of goes over a lot of these steps. So you can this is the exact 6-month plan I use with my clients to get
Send them. So not just
actually send them website. So not just so you might want to go and watch that as well. Moving along. Sorry, I kind of sidetracked there, but a lot of people that do WordPress security also do performance. They maybe do SEO, local SEO, whatever. Okay, change login page. So if you go to norzer.me, WP admin, it's not going to work. What is it? That login's actually WP login or whatever, but admin directs to that. So I've actually changed the login page to norzer.login. Right? You can. I don't care if you know that, right? I really don't care, because there's only a handful of people that are going to watch this, and I might go back and change it. But there's just anybody that's trying to compromise your site knows to go to WP login or whatever it is, WP admin. Yeah, my 404 page is going to here. I'm going to pause it real quick. I need to make a note of this. So that way, okay, I'm back. So it's just another level of protection, right? Just change that login page. Now there's ways to get around it, but like I said, you just don't want to be the low-hanging fruit. You can do that in iTheme Security Pro. Here are some other plugins you can use to do it. I would just use iTheme Security Pro. Limit login attempts. So you don't want somebody to be able to sit there and bang away and try to log in 5,000 times. You want to limit those login attempts. You can do that in iTheme Security Pro. It actually might be default in WordPress now. I don't know. Something I need to check. Or you can use this plugin here. It helps with brute force attacks. Add captcha to the login page. I guess that's let me pause it. Okay, I had a oversight there. So this is something that you can add to add using iTheme Security Pro. So obviously CAPTCHA, it's just going to help prevent brute force attacks because you have to solve a puzzle or something. Actually, the new version of CAPTCHA, it automatically detects it in a lot of cases, right? Check, have I been pwned? So have I been owned? So pwned is kind of like the, the elite, or I should say the hacker word. Put in your email address. Let's actually do Ryan Norzer. This is going to show if this email has been compromised anywhere with the password. So this has not. I know my personal email has a ton over the years. So I've been found in 38 data breaches. A lot of these are older though. So just sign up to this newsletter with your email address, well obviously, and anytime your email address is dumped in one of these data breaches, you're going to get an email alert about it. Okay, I went over this above, backup stuff. So keep WordPress plugins up to date. So this is native in WordPress now. Some people choose to auto update, which I do. If I'm a big corporation and there's, a lot of money at stake, you might want to test a plugin before updating it. But if you just have a small business, it's just overkill to run a bunch of tests every time a plugin needs an update. So that's something you can natively do within WordPress now. If not, here's some plugins. Same thing with themes, etc., etc. Only use plugins that are still maintained. Let me see what I wrote here. Okay, so let me show you what this is. How to determine this. There's no automated way that I know of. So you just go to plugins. And just one by one, you just have to go to view details. And is it compatible with this version of WordPress? Which it's not. So that's something I would, that would be concerning to me. Last updated 12 months ago. I don't like to run any plugins, and this is a demo site, so I don't really care, that haven't been updated. 12 months is right about the longest I want something to go without an update. And I like things that have over 1,000 installs. This has over 2 million installs, so it's pretty trustworthy. You could also go to the support plugin homepage. Well, there's this, I thought it was normally up here, and find out if people are talking about any vulnerabilities. But I don't do that, but you can if you want. What I look at, does this appear? That's a concern. Is it not being updated? That's a concern. Then how many? If this appears, hasn't been updated in 3 years, and there's like 70 installs, that's a big problem, right? This is a borderline problem. What I like about it is it has 2 million installs. You just got to do this one by one. As far as I know, there's no way around it. There's no automated way to do it. So, all the plugins, are all of these, do you need all of these? And are all of them, this has a bunch of junk on it, just for like I said, demo purposes. Do I really need this discuss for WordPress? It's message for comments on WordPress. Why not just use the native commenting system? But so just go through here, find out what each one of these plugins do. Do you need them? Even if they're not being used, don't just keep them deactivated. Just go ahead and get rid of them. And you can see here I have auto updates enabled. Over here, deactivate, blah, blah, blah. So, WP VulnDB, what I like to do, and you should be good with WPScan here, but I like to do this at least at the beginning, and then like once every 6 month, sixth month, sorry. So rank math SEO. So I'll go here. Wait, is it here? WordPress. Okay. Rank math. So rank math, this version of rank math has a vulnerability. Now 199.5% of the time this should be picked up with WPScan and the WPScan plugin, and probably the scanner that iTheme Security Pro uses, probably the scanner that WordFence uses, etc., etc. But it's something I do sometimes do. I like to do it at the beginning, for sure. Then it's something I like to do maybe once every 6 months. Sometimes I don't do it, but it's just something else to throw out there. You could also put it in a fancy report for your clients. But this is the database that WPScan uses. Okay, so we went over that WPScan, check email, went over that above. are the themes being maintained? So this is similar to the plugin. So we'll go here. Themes. First of all, keep them updated. Boom, boom, boom. Kindergarten school, go to theme details. I think this one is... I shouldn't have updated it right there. Version 2.7. So just go Google this theme and see what the current version is. Because remember when we did WPScan, at least I think we did here. I'm not going to go back to it. It showed that I was using the kindergarten school theme, whatever that's called, and it says it was out of date. Right? So it's something, gives you that information from there, and you also get it from back here. Moving along, page 8 of 18. Okay, a lot of this is actually WPScan output, so we're getting towards the end here. So hopefully you guys are finding this useful. Again, if you need help with SEO, WordPress security, WordPress performance, send me an email or just go to norzer.me. And please, if you're finding this useful, I really would appreciate a like button. A comment really helps in the algorithm too. And then hit subscribe and hit the alarm bell, because I do maybe a video once every couple weeks, so I'm not going to overwhelm you with stuff. But hopefully you find that this more long-form content useful, because this is stuff you can actually use with your clients. This isn't like how to do one thing. I try to put a lot of videos out there. I have a lot of videos that I do actually doing live SEO audits for my clients. Some of them are 2.5 hours, right? So you can learn a lot doing that. Boom. Hide the name of theme and plugins being used. We went over that. So again, it's not 100%, but you can go look at how to do this now. So I'll briefly cover it again. We want to give as little, we want to leak as little information as possible to people analyzing our website. Hide as many version names as possible. We want to hide as many plugin names as possible. And that's why you want to have iTheme Security Pro enabled. And while I'm here, let me just enable it again for this website. I had it turned off for what I'm doing here. Just go ahead and get that turned back on. Done. Okay. So disable the REST API for anybody not logged in. So basically the REST API allows you to do stuff with your WordPress installation, like not natively when you're logged in through a web browser. I shouldn't say natively, not actually, logged in looking at stuff. So just if some plugins need it, what I would do is just disable it, or at least make sure that people have to log in to have access to the API or to be able to utilize the API. And if something breaks, that's the problem. You can do iTheme Security Pro, of course. Use WP Activity Log to monitor all changes. Let me just see. iTheme Security Pro has basic functionality of this. But this is basic. Let me just do a screenshot so you can see. There's a free version and a paid version. It's really cool. It monitors to at a hardcore level all of the things that are being done on your website. So you can see here, this person changed the category of published post. This person created the value of the custom field, blah, blah, blah. So this is useful. If something does happen, you can see exactly who did what. So this is why it's important to make sure everybody has their own account. Moving along. Get notified when somebody logs in or attempts to log in. Why I like this, if somebody is trying to log in, you'll get an email alert with iTheme Security Pro or with WP Login Notifier. If somebody is logging in with my user ID, don't you think that would be interesting to know? Because I'm not logging in. Or even if somebody's trying to log in with my user ID, I want to know about it. Once you change the login page, once you put in CAPTCHA, and once you change the username from admin to something else, a lot of these are going to disappear because you're not the low-hanging fruit, as we've discussed probably 8,000 times above. Web application firewalls, make sure the plugin... Okay, yeah, so sometimes these, specifically WordFence I've noticed, can slow down your website. Not a lot of times. Maybe on 2% of the sites I work with, I've noticed it slows down sites. So after you install it, just make sure you go back and do a web page test scan or GTmetrix scan or Google Page Insights scan, or just go to it and make sure it's not slowing things down. So this is my preference. Oh, and here's a link to my video tutorial here. And then also install WPScan, which is great. File detection plugin. So this is good. So you want to know if any files are changing on the operating system. This is handled in iTheme Security Pro. I'm a broken record. So if somebody's updating your WP config file, you want to know that that file's being changed. But you definitely want to make sure you exclude your caching directories, because those are always changing, right? And so anytime a file is changed, you're going to get an email about it. Or you can use Website File Changes Monitor, which is another plugin. Disable XML RPC. It's like we used to have a program called LiveWriter. I think that was what it was called. It looked like Microsoft Word kind of, and you could create a post in this tool and then upload it to your website. It's not used anymore. I don't know of any plugins that uses. I heard that Jetpack does or something, but I don't like Jetpack. It has a ton of bloat. It usually slows websites down. But if you don't know if you're using it or not, you're probably not. Just go ahead and disable it. And then spam detection. This plugin's really good. So this is some scan output for WPScan. I just want to put this here. Okay, so this is what happens if you have iTheme Security Pro turned on. So you can't get any of this information. This isn't even an intent scan. You can see here. So this is a separate scan here. For Norzer demo, I got the version number, the theme used. That's where it's coming from. Vulnerable plugins. So you can see here, this is if you have the paid version. Contextual related posts, less than this version, multiple parameter SQL ejects, and then you can go here for information on the vulnerability. So if you had the free version, you wouldn't see this. It would just show you the plugin and the version. Vulnerability here. So you can see all this information you can get, or somebody trying to compromise your website can get. Plugin. So plugin. Social media share icons less than 217 and multiple issues. Okay, so that doesn't get specific, so you'd have to go to here and find out what's going on. Request remaining, so that's good. So that's basically it. I hope this has helped. I'll try it again. If you've got this far, type, I think I said pencil in the comments, because comments help. Just from an algorithmic point of view, and it shows me that you guys are actually watching and enjoying this stuff. I hope you are. If not, I'm just not going to waste my time with it. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. As I said before, if you need any help with any of this stuff, you can go to norzer.me, or just email me, ryan@norzer.me. This is a valuable service you can provide to clients. Like I said, you can do it free. You can do it for $99, $500, whatever. I like to do it for free, and then the money I make is by just going to these one by one and making these changes. So it's you don't have to be like super smart. You just one by one go make. Let me go back up. Install this. Boom, boom, boom. So I hope this helped. Let me know if I can help out in any way. If there's any videos you want done on WordPress security, SEO, WordPress performance, put them in the comments or contact me. And if I know those topics, I will try to do them. But go look at my other videos. I have a lot of like live audits, how to troubleshoot WordPress performance, all kinds of stuff. So I hope this helped, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya.